I think a lot of soccer players say, I'm a soccer player and that's all they are. What if I don't have soccer anymore? They don't have an identity. And then you start figuring out, what are things that I am? I play soccer, but I am not just a soccer player. Biggest problem with youth soccer is there's no promotion or relegation. And there's not a lot of opportunities for new professional clubs to start at a lower league and then move their way up. There's a lot of exploitation of money from the youth. There's no clear structure. Even if you could play with players like men, Sunday league and stuff like that, I think that's still so much more valuable sometimes than playing like a regular MLS Next tournament. 100%. I get to play with some of these guys. They're not in shape anymore, but you could see there's so much more experience. So they'll make better decisions. The patience on the ball, like stuff that you won't see from a youth player at all. Train and be patient. You're trying to play pro. Pro player, they'll mess up 100 times and they'll just keep bouncing back. Pressure of being a pro, I think like once you can get over that and you can become a successful pro, you've had to go through so many like trials and tribulations and failures. It starts to become noise that you don't even care about.
So Jaydon, what is the biggest problem you think about the US youth soccer system?
I think the biggest problem with youth soccer is that from the top, we have there's no promotion or relegation. So when you're looking all the way down, there's not a lot of opportunities for players or for new professional clubs to start at a lower league and then move their way up. There's a lot of exploitation of money from the youth. So I think the biggest problem is that there's no really direction. There's no clear structure because you have a million first division youth soccer, then 3 second. So there's no like, this is number 2, this is number 1. So I think that's a big problem, that there's no structure and there's no real information and there's a lot of exploitation on money.
What's your mission with modern elite training? Like, what are you trying to achieve?
So for modern elite training specifically, it's just building or getting better development for players at a younger age. And then also having that development kind of grow with you as you become a better player. Because right now with the development out there, there's a lot of very general or basic drills, basic guidance from regular coaches that want to get some money on the side, and that's not what they do as a passion. Like that's not their full-time thing. And I think that gives or that leads to bad or I guess underqualified development for players that are trying to really develop.
So for modern elite training, how do you measure success of a player? This is something that I get asked quite a lot. Like, okay, you're an agency. Like, how do you measure success? Is it just Division 1 signings, pro signings? Like, for a player at modern elite to be like, okay, that was success, or you be like, okay, that player was successful. Like, how do you measure success?
That's a good question. I think for us, if we can get somebody that wants to play, let's say they're in middle school, they want to play high school, or they're not MLS Next and they want to play MLS Next, if we can get them from not being at the level to then developing and actually making it a year after or 2 years after, I think for us that shows that what we did is helpful. Apart from that, it's quite difficult because you have the development of the club that sometimes can conflict with what we're doing, in the sense that, I mean, we're just technical. We don't really go based on tactics. But if the club's development or the players in that team aren't good enough, then sometimes it's hard because you have people pushing you once or twice a week, 1 hour a week, and then you have a club that's where you would expect the majority of your development to be coming from, and that might not be kind of like fostering that big development piece.
So when you were growing up and when you were playing football, what were your goals as a player? Like when you were 16, 17, when you were a kid, what were you trying to achieve?
Always pro. So yeah, I was always trying to go pro. As I got older, when I went on my first trial, I played in the snow for the first time. And for me, I was like, whoa. I didn't want to do that anymore. I'm a South Florida guy. I don't do cold. And then my best friend at the time, he was going on trials in Spain, Italy, and then he ended up in Malta, but Spain and Italy. And he would go on trials. They would cut him, go to another trial. They would cut him. And I was like, bro, I can't imagine the next 10, 15 years of my life looking like that, where you go on trial, it doesn't work. You go on another trial, it doesn't work. Like, for me, I was like, I don't know if I could do that. So I was always pro, and then towards, I would say 17, 18, that's when I started to shift to Division 1.
And how was your college recruiting process?
It was difficult in the beginning because I was going alone. So I had no guidance. I didn't know who to talk to. Even talking to directors and stuff, it was hard to get clear guidance, like what are the next steps to take. And so in the beginning, it was difficult. I ended up getting an agent. And that made it a lot easier, to be honest. So that helped me a lot. But through that experience with the agent, I've learned a lot of a lot, I guess, tricks that you can say.
So, in terms of like college recruiting, because there'll be a lot of players and parents listening to this who will be like, oh, I really want to get recruited to go and play college soccer. And I think it's an important topic to talk about. Modern elite training is just training, private training, or do you also do like mentorship recruiting? Like,
so that is something that we considered looking at in for the future to build recruitment. The only thing that I don't like about doing recruitment and training the same thing is like, what are you? Like you end up getting like some sort of identity crisis. And most times, because of the resources that a business would have, is you don't have enough to kind of pull people to have one team here and one team there. So for example, one team in college recruitment and the other team in training. So you end up having everybody doing both. My experience with anybody doing two different things is like, then you're not going to do either of them with full intent. So I think that most, because I've dealt with them in the past when I was playing, is you end up dealing with trainers that are okay trainers and okay agents.
Yeah, but not the best at
either. Yeah. So if we were to do it, it would be separate.
What would you say, before we get onto college recruiting, like what would you say makes a really good trainer?
I would say somebody that first of all understands like the game, how it is played today. It's a lot more physical now. The speed of play, I would say, is a lot faster. You have a lot more technical guys. Back then, of course, it was I guess more raw, less technical, more long balls. Just the game is not played like that anymore. So I think from a trainer, one, to understand how that game works. Two, I think you build it with experience of training top guys. So we've been fortunate to train at this point 50 plus 100 professional players and hundreds of Division 1, Division 2 players. So you end up getting a feel for it, but it's not something that you develop overnight. I would say even more important than that is somebody that just focuses on private training, because most private trainers, they're a club coach and then a private. So you're doing like two separate things.
Why is private training important? Because some people, because I've actually spoken to a lot of private traders recently.
Yeah.
And sometimes I speak to a player and I'm like, oh, do you have a private trainer? Now it's a money grab. I don't need that. Like, what is your, why do people use you? Why do you need a private trainer?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think the way I say it now is not like I don't even have to set it really. I think it's something that everybody's doing it. So if you're not doing the type of additional training that everybody out there is doing, you're gonna fall behind. I think that's like number one. Like everybody's doing those extra touches. I think the soccer is obviously played two ways. One, tactically understanding off ball movement, but then on the ball is super important. So you can know what you want to do off the ball, but if you get the ball and you don't know what to do, you're gonna be behind.
So, but how do I find enough time? But if I need a private trainer, am I not just in the wrong club?
No, because a club, even when you're looking at the club, so we took the U.S. soccer coaching. We started the license, and most coaches in club environments, especially here in Miami, don't have like a super high US license or UEFA license in coaching. And the beginning of it is very specifically says don't focus on the individual, focus on the team and how the team ends up winning. And I think that explains it in itself. Like you don't need they say don't focus on the individual, focus on how the team collectively wins and make the team move in a way that we can all win together. Whereas the individual, if let's say that coach is not necessarily playing you as much or is not giving you specific guidance on let's say your winger and you're looking for one-on-one advice, if that coach is not going to have the time because he has 17, 18 other players to focus on. So
do you find that like there's a specific position that needs the most private training? For example, I speak to a lot of goalkeepers and their club doesn't even have a goalie coach.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, what? Like so what do you do? Rondos and then just fucking save? Like
yeah.
So but do you find like there's a specific position on the pitch that needs private training the most?
So yes, and the answer. Okay, so I think first of all, I think wingers probably need a lot of private training. Center backs and stuff like that, of course, you need defensive work. But I think, based on my experience, wingers and forwards, I think center forwards need the most.
Why?
Wingers, because they don't get a lot of exposure, especially here in Florida or the U.S. There's not a lot of like futsal or street soccer, so there's not a lot of creativity in their game. So
that's true.
The only alternative to that is like working directly on one-on-ones. And you're not going to get a lot of reps in clubs. Yes, you're going to do one-on-ones in clubs, but you have to wait your line and wait for 15 other players to do their one-on-one before you go back into it. So if you can have like an hour, 2 hours a week dedicated on just what you need, like one-on-ones, for example, that's huge. And then for forwards, I think same thing with the playing on the street. They don't know how to use their body. So when it comes to like turning with a defender on your back, most of them are lost. They don't know what to do. And that's stuff that you would naturally find on the street when you play. Because we don't do that here in Miami specifically, but in the US really, you don't get that exposure. And on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, in Europe there's more exposure to playing with adults. Here it's like if you play in the UPSL as a youth player, like it's like wow, like that club is doing a good job by pushing you, but it's not common. It's not very common.
What how would you describe the levels between like MLS, ECNL, NPL, high school? Like when you're training, because I'm assuming that you've got players that you train from different types of levels.
Yeah.
What would you say like are the best players, and then the ones that maybe need the most work, that are struggling?
Yeah, I would say MLS Next typically, it's not always, but typically has the best players. I think that there's here specifically, there's such a focus, or I guess there's so much media or propaganda or ads or advertisement or whatever for the MLS. So typically all these players get like FOMO and want to play in the MLS. So they get so many people. I mean, tryouts for these clubs could be like 300 to 500 players. So you're typically going to get the best players playing in the MLS Next. Yes, you're going to find people in ECNL that are also good. But from what I see, on average, the better players are playing MLS Next.
Why? What makes? You know what's interesting, because there's a I think club called Strikers. They're not MLS Next. What are they?
No.
They're not even ECNL.
I think they just became ECNL RL.
They were really, really good. I've watched them a few times. I'm like, wow. I went to Bethesda to a tournament in Maryland, and I saw them, and I was like, wow. They played against Bethesda, who had like commits to Division 1 schools in the Northeast, like Georgetown, these schools, and this team was like, I think they were NAL or maybe even like E64 or EDP, and I was like, wow, that team is good. So what's your opinion on like the youth soccer pyramid of like, okay, you have to play, do you think that you have to play MLS Next to play D1?
I don't. I don't, but I do think like if you're playing with odds, I think like life you can see as like playing with odds. If you want to be in the most likely environment to get seen by a scout, I think MLS Next is that. Like for example, Strikers, and I think they're a good team. They have good teams, but I think like even mentioning Strikers as like a really good team that's not there, I think that highlights in itself how like they're like an anomaly. Like it's not the common, so most scouts aren't gonna just pick like, oh, I think Strikers from the NAL or E64 or whatever is good, so I'm gonna go to them. Like typically I would imagine that and even in conversation with scouts, they're gonna go to a tournament that there's a bunch of teams that they're more likely to find somebody that's good rather than like a random tournament that maybe one team is good in.
So you mentioned that in your recruiting process you got an agent. Why did you get an agent?
I had reached out to a bunch of schools. Honestly, for me, I was getting responses. I just wasn't following up on the responses as fast as I should have. So I was talking to, I'd reached out to UNC. They had good interest in me. Same thing as UCLA. But even with you, UNC is like something that like for me, like it's still my brain. It's like I reached out to them. They seemed very interested. And then I waited 2 or 3 months to respond.
Why?
I just felt like I was getting too many eyes on me. I got like around that period, I was maybe talking to anywhere from 30 to 50 schools. So I felt like I had forever to make a decision or to follow up.
If you were helping a player now and they were doing that, what would you say to that player?
Respond immediately. Yeah, respond immediately. So I mean, if I were to give advice to myself back then, I would have said respond immediately, because there's so many other talented players that you don't have the leverage to kind of just take forever. Unless you're playing like at a super national team level, you don't have the leverage.
So was the agent there to get you connected, or was the agent there just to be like, hey, you need to reply? Like, what did the agent? Why did you hire the agent?
So that I don't miss out on opportunities again. Yeah. So the agent helped me. I mean, my profile luckily was pretty solid, so it didn't take too much for like once I got the agent, it was immediately getting a lot of opportunities again. But it was more so that I don't miss out on opportunities like that.
How do you pick? Because this is important, I think, because there'll be maybe someone listening to this like, I'm going to get an agent, I'm going to get a load of offers.
Yeah.
Why did you pick that agent? Why was that a good agent?
I think they were very involved in the process. So that was good. They were always involved. They were always touching base. It was a smaller agency at the time, so I felt like I had a more personal connection rather than like a huge agency. that has like thousands of players. Like it was more like, if I were to guess, it was like 50 maybe players in total at the time. So it felt like I could get a hold of the main agent, which was huge for me. But I don't think, like, I wouldn't say that most players would just get an agent and get loads of offers. I don't think so.
Why?
Because they don't have the profile, they don't have the level. I think
How do you know if you do have the profile? How do you know if you do have the level to play Division 1 soccer? Let's talk about.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's pretty difficult because for me, I got the rankings, so it wasn't so much like my own opinion. Like I could say like, yeah, I'm a D1 player, I'm D1 level or whatever. But fortunately for me, I had I was ranked on Top Drawer Soccer. I would get like the notice of like, whatever, you're one of the top players here. So for me, and then also talking to coaches, they were always like, you're very talented, we want you in the team. So it was a little easier, I would say. But for most players, I feel like that's another problem. That's what modern elite training like tries to do as well at the higher level, is to be realistic with them, because most players don't understand what level they're at. Like they just.
How do you? This is something that I have learned a lot how to deal with, but like trying to educate the players on their level. Like, for example, a player, Jaydon, comes to you and says, "I want to play Division 1 soccer."
Yeah.
You know that they're not ready. How do you? Number one, how do you know they're not ready? And number two, how do you educate them?
Good question. I think there's a sort of base technical ability that you need to play Division 1 soccer.
But is that subjective or objective? Like, how do you know?
That's so you can always say it's subjective. I think it's hard to say it's objective anything in soccer, really. I think everything, like I heard a quote that it's like soccer is an art. So it's like, even between our coaching staff, we're looking to take a team right now, or we're taking a team to Mallorca for a tournament. And even with the players that we have 3 different coaches. We're all talking all the time. We all have the same training philosophy when it comes to putting people
players differently.
Yeah, when we put players on the field, each coach has like a different opinion on one player. So I don't think there's ever going to be like solid data to be like, if you could do this, you're going to play D1. But I think like if you can stand out among the rest, and you're playing at a high level in so I would say MLS Next or ECNL. If you're playing MLS Next or ECNL International, and you're one of the best players, if not the best player in the team, I think that's like a good indicator that you could play high. But if not, like if you're just like one of a regular role player, I think it's going to be difficult.
So how do you communicate that to a player? How do you educate them that they might not be ready but still keep them motivated? We just implemented video analysis into our program. I think that's important. So look at what your level is compared to a Division 1 player. So what we'll do for a player like that, for example, is show them a video on a Division 1 player and then tell them to replicate these movements. So you're telling them, but you're telling them why and how to fix it.
Yeah, and showing it not just from my opinion, but like look at how they play and can you keep up with them. Most players are like, oh, you know, I didn't realize it was that level.
So it's an education piece.
Yeah.
What do you think? And I know we just talked about this off camera, like the education, the misinformation gap. Like, how do you educate players? Like what? Because I feel like obviously modern elite training, you're trying to develop and you're trying to help players, but there's an education piece there. So like, what's your hacks or your cheat codes for like educating players? Like what works for you on how to get them informed about what they need to do?
That's good. I think the biggest thing I would say is having players train with other players that are playing at that level. So for example, we'll have youth players, like let's say U19, U17 players that get to train with our Division 1 players. And for them, that's like, okay, maybe if I can compete, maybe you're at the level. If you're clearly behind, then it's like, look, what do you think? I think one of the things that we like to do is ask the players, because a lot of times they'll be able to answer their own questions. Like, what do you think? How is your level against that player? Hey, look, I felt like I can keep up. Then we can be like, yeah, either you did, and I think you could play that level, or if they don't, there's some things that maybe you're lacking, whether it's decision making or speed of play or your first touch or whatever the case is. Just being able to go over that like right after the session, I think is huge. Yeah,
interesting. So,
but it's hard. I don't think there's like a specific hack. I think each player has a different personality, so I can't tell one player the same way I'll tell another player.
Agree. And then obviously you have the players and then the parents. How do you? What's your relationship like with the parents and modern elite? Are you like involved with them a lot, or are you kind of just try and take it away and focus on the player?
We do try to do both. Parents are obviously important because they're the ones making the sacrifice and time, money, whatever the case is. But we do like to tell them from jump. It's like, look, we've been able to fortunately train a lot of top players. We're gonna give you the most honest and raw advice that we can. If you guys, like, we're not gonna sell you guys a dream. We're gonna tell you how it is, and we're very clear with that. It's like, I'm not gonna tell you you're Division 1 if you're not. So yeah.
And because I feel like I've experienced a lot of that too. Like, I started Select Generation when I was 22 years old. And I remember there were some parents that kind of, like, at the start were like, who is this kid? Like, trying to tell my kid, like, he can play at this level or whatever. Have you found, like, because you're not, like, a seasoned coach, or you're not, like, got 20 years of experience, do you ever feel like from the players and the parents as a bit like, or do they respect you a lot? Initially
in the first, I would say, like, first year and a half, yeah. But now they come to us typically with that prior knowledge of what we do. So we don't get that anymore.
I want to ask, because when I started Select Generation, I felt like there was a lot of agencies. It's a very, like, everyone starts an agency. My friend, someone randomly, someone you played in college, like, agency, private training company. I'm sure you see a lot of your friends start them, or people you know. What do you think makes, because you're obviously quite, how long have you been doing this for now?
4 years in this location, about 2 years.
Wow.
Almost
So
2 years.
What do you think separates you from other private training companies?
This is our full-time thing. I think that's something, actually, it's funny that you asked that, because we get a lot of people like, okay, so what do you do during the day? It's like, yeah, we're also part of modern age training. Like, we're just doing this all the time. So when it, like, our competitive advantage, I think, is that we're doing this 12, 13 hours a day in comparison to most private trainers that are doing it 1 or 2 hours a day.
But people will listen to that and they'll think, how can you do private training for 13 hours a day? Like, you're not outside, you're only outside for it in the evening. Like, what are you doing in the morning?
Planning so we have our director of player development, which is typically planning sessions, planning whether it's clinics or looking at our database of drills and seeing how we can improve that. We have a video analyst that's constantly going over game film, seeing how we can use that game film at the top level and implement it with our director of player development, so that they can collaborate and make good sessions on the field that like actually apply to the game that's being played now. And then for me, it's just making sure that everything's organized. So when you're looking at a coach, like, to make it simple, when you're looking at typically a private trainer, it's one coach, which is the founder, CEO, head coach, and media guy, and pretty much everything. So he has to take his time divided between doing media, talking to parents, collecting money, scheduling, and then also showing up tired, exhausted from probably his 9 to 5. And he has a club coach, like a club team at the end of the day. So he's just so divided. It's like you can't really focus 100% on that. We get to do, I was talking to somebody the other day about this actually. We get to plan for 6 to 8 hours before we have our main block of training, which is typically, it can go from 4 to 5 hours.
How do you not get bored from doing the same thing? Because I think I've got self-diagnosed ADHD, and I'm like, for me, if I'm thinking about like planning sessions every day, just doing the same thing repetitive, I'm obviously in the football space, so I probably know that some of the problems that you've dealt with, but like, how do you keep it fun? How do you keep it like enjoyable?
So I love business. Like, I love learning about it. So I mean, for me, I'm doing a lot of back end stuff, so I personally enjoy learning how to grow the business, and not, I mean, of course, revenue is a big part of growing any business, right? But for me, I just like it. For me, it's like a game to me. It's like revenue is the winner of the game, and you just have to figure out different strategies on how to get there. But for me, it's like, how do we provide more value? That's just like the way that I try to think of it. It's like, instead of just maybe charging more, it's like, how do we provide more value in different ways?
How many people do you have in your team? Like, how many?
Full, like, pretty much every day is 4.
Wow.
But yeah, we have like about 6 in total.
So what and stuff. And what have you enjoyed most about growing Modern Elite Training? Like, what are you most proud of?
Beating the struggles, I think. Like, we've had financial struggles, stress, opening up a facility at 19. It was rough. I didn't know, we got kicked out of parks before going into the facility. In the facility, we had months of making no money at all, like just burning money. So for me, that like being able to say that, like, I got over that and I figured it out somehow, I think that's been huge.
Why were you losing money?
rent, like overhead, like staff.
But if I'm listening to that and I'm thinking, oh, he was learning, why didn't you just stop? Like, why did like if you're losing money, why don't you just be like, I'm not going to run the session today?
Well, it was our own location, so we didn't have it. Like we signed for X amount of years, so we can't just like back out. Like we were in it, so obviously there's like deposits that they get put in. So there's a lot of stuff that there was no backing out. It was like either figure it out or go bankrupt.
And how did you figure that out?
I think time. The fortunate thing about us is that we had a good out of facility, like in field like training or client base. It was just transferring them from outside random parks to our own location. That was difficult.
Why? Why was it difficult?
I don't know. I thought it would be easier, but I think maybe because it was like unfamiliar, or they didn't know how it was, or like an indoor field and a location in Doral, was like maybe it was like kind of like what's happening there. It was more difficult than I expected. I thought it was going to be like we open and boom, it was going to explode, and it didn't do that for a few months after.
So I think it's important because a big part of my message with our players is like, you learn a lot through football with like being part of a team, resilience, opportunity, friendships, learning how to be outside of your comfort zone, like dealing with struggles. So when you're going through these moments, there'll be a lot of people that would have been like, I'm going to go work a job or go back to working at Chipotle or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what got you through those moments mentally?
I've always been competitive. I think soccer taught me that a lot. Soccer taught me how to be competitive. So for me, I was like, there's no way that there's so many other entrepreneurs out there that can figure it out and I can't. So I always, and my team knows this, like I'm always trying to figure out how do we improve? How do we get better? What are we doing wrong? And I feel like for us, because we're so light on our toes, like we're able to make so many changes from a day to day. Like we'll implement something, and if it doesn't work, then we're willing to change it in a month. I think a lot of businesses or entrepreneurs, they'll implement something, wait 2 or 3 years and be like, whoops, this is not working. Whereas for us, we're a young team. We don't have like that much to lose. Like most of us are still living with our parents. And
so you mentioned something there, like I think soccer taught me that. Like what did soccer teach you?
Soccer taught me how to be competitive. I think it taught me like how to work in a team, making sure that you learn how to communicate with different personalities, which is huge because when you're talking to, like managing a team, I've never managed a team prior to this. So managing a team with modern elite training, I've had to learn how to speak with one type of personality and then talk to another person. And it's like, if you talk to one the same way as the other, then they're going to get upset. And I've done a horrible job in the beginning and I've had to learn the hard way. But that is something that with soccer, I think I've had to improve because you're playing with 11 guys on the field or 10 other guys on the field and maybe a roster of 25 to 35 players. So you're always talking to different people. So like, for example, I was one of those players like, give me the ball. Like you just can't do that. Like you have to learn like how to say it nicely or like some guys you can scream at them and other guys you have to kind of talk them through the game.
Yeah, I think that's something that I learned a lot recently, like managing people and different emotions, especially like because when you're running a big operation, it's like, okay, you have your own team, you have the players, you have the parents, you have other stakeholders or people getting involved and like collaborating partnerships. And I think like I've been reading a lot recently and listening to a lot of podcasts, like how to manage people. And I remember at the start, I don't know about you, but at the start, I was like, okay, I'm from England. I played Division 1 soccer. I know what I'm talking about. I think, you know, I don't think I know. I think I've been pretty humble. But at some point, I was like, I know what to do. Like, you know, I can tell you what to do. And I think managing people is more about like less talking, more listening. I think if you really like listen to what the person is saying positively and what the person is saying negatively, if you understand like what they're trying to communicate and then over communicating too, like I always feel like if you need to over communicate. If you're not sure whether to say something or not, say it, whether it's to the parent, to the player, to her, because at some point they're going to be like, okay, like that's clarity. Like I know what's going on now. I'm not confused, or there's a little inkling.
I agree.
So I think, and I think soccer teaches a big part of that too. Like I was the captain at my Division 2 school. Division 1 school, I was kind of quiet. I wouldn't really say I was one of the leaders in the dressing room, but I think like connecting the dots and being that person, even like at parties, you know, going around and saying hello and just connecting, like
Yeah. I mean, for leading a team is super important to be able to.
What's your? If you could go back to the start of leading a team, What would be your biggest piece of advice to managing people and dealing with people?
Don't expect everybody to respond the same way that you do to a situation or to a problem. I think another thing that I learned from a mentor was that you have to assume that people that are working in your team mean good in what they do. So even if they make a mistake, they typically mean, like, they don't mean harm. So that's helped me a lot this last year, is understanding that even if they mess up, it's not because they're doing it like purposefully to like be bad or mess up the team. It's just because they maybe didn't have the information or were not as educated or whatever. So just taking it from that frame of thinking, like, okay, maybe they mean well.
I think also a big thing is managing emotions. I think I'm quite an emotional person, but I try not to show it. But like, there's some big things that happen, and they really, because it's your baby, right? Like, you like love it, and you've spent so much time and effort, and you're like, how could you not love this as much as I love it, you know, to your team? And then when something makes up, it's like, why did you do that? Or which, and I think at the start, like me and Victor, obviously we were best friends. We talk every day, all the day. And at the start, we would argue a lot, not like negative arguing, but, you know, you have disagreements, or you want to push in this direction, and the other person, and you have conversations about it. But I think managing emotions too, like, okay, something's happened really bad. You're the leader.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Panic, scream, shout, be like, well, it seems like you're out of control. And the parents and the players are going to be like, well, what's going on? Like, you're managing my kid, because you're managing children too, you know? So you have to be like calm, cool, and collected. Take a deep breath. Okay. No one died. Yeah. Like, the world is not going to end. Like, we good. How can we like carefully manage this? Okay, you made a mistake. It's good. I trust you. I know you. You've been here for however long. I like you. You made a mistake. It's all good. Like, as long as I think the biggest thing is repeat mistakes. I am a big believer in failing as fast as possible, as many times as possible. Like, I tried a million things and they all failed and they didn't work. But what can you learn from those things? And then don't repeat the same mistake. If you, like, for example, social media, we do, I don't know, some new type of content or some new videos, and 100 views or rubbish. Like, okay, that's fine. Just don't do it again. Like, figure out, was the hook bad? Was the point of the content bad? Like, okay, as long as we don't make repeat mistakes. And I think, like, when you're managing a team too, like, managing your emotions, because if you get upset, frustrated, angry, people are gonna, you know, like, you need to motivate people, I think, too.
I agree. And I think something that I've learned from business that can relate to soccer is for players to have more patience, like, in their journey. I think they expect so much instant gratification.
You know, I heard this, like, you need to, like, people think the reward is the end goal, but the reward is the journey.
Correct. It's the journey, and also knowing that, like, your desired end goal could be, you might expect it to be 2 years from now, but it might be 10 years from now. And just being willing to go through the steps in order to get there. Like, for example, we have a new guy in the team that he's looking to implement this new program. And he doesn't have really any prior experience with developing a program from nothing and building it out. And I told him, like, look, the way that this is it's going to take a long time to really figure this out. Like, it's not just like you develop a new program. Modern Lady Training has a fan base or a people behind it, clients or whatever, and it's just going to explode. That's not how it works. Like, it's going to take time to build it out, get better, refine it, get better, refine it again, and then continue to push it. And it takes more time than I think anybody would really expect.
How do you, when you first started Modern Elite, did you expect it to be where it is now?
No. I initially, it was just I liked soccer. Obviously, I love soccer, and it was so I don't have to work in Chipotle. But it ended up growing to something much bigger than I could have expected.
At what point did you be like, okay, I want to do this full time?
I was working in real estate, so I started Modern Elite Training for about 3 or 4 months. I took a break because I had graduated high school. I started Modern Elite Training in my senior year in about May. So I had like about a month to go for senior year. Graduated, I took it until about August of that year, and then in September I took my real estate license. I did real estate from September to about a year and a half after that. In between the time of me ending real estate and Modern Lady Training starting like again, like it kind of overlapped for about 6 months. So in that overlap, we ended up getting 2 new coaches, and they were just going on field to field. And I was like, we're getting a lot of players. I think this is something really special. Like, there's no surprise that we're getting so many players in such a short amount of time. Let's see what if I were to go full time? Like, how would that because I'm spending right now maybe 3 hours a week on this. So what if I were able to dedicate 10 hours, 12 hours a day?
What did you need more time to do, like the operations or to do the actual sessions?
Operations and managing the quality of the sessions. I think that was important because if, like, for example, we would get new coaches and they weren't getting like constant like one-on-one mentorship in their development. So I felt like that could, but like one coach was maybe more developed than the other coach. So the level, like if a player would go from this coach to the other coach, they might feel like disappointed. And I didn't want that. So I was like, okay, I need to be more involved. So from quality management to operations, scheduling, making sure our website gets better, media, all that stuff.
Well, when you, talking a little bit about like soccer, when you work with a player, because I've spoken to like Miguel Grande, you know him?
Yeah.
He's a good friend. And I was speaking to him like, what do you like about working with players?
Yeah.
For you to be like, I'm so excited to do this session with a player today, like what does the player need to do to get you excited about working with him?
I think just be ready to work. A lot of players, they do private training because their parents make them. But I think the players that like do it because of their own will or own desire, those are the players that are really enjoyable to work with, because they're there, they ask questions, they show up, they warm up on their own, they're like ready. You could feel like the energy, and I think that type of energy like bounces off from coach to player.
If I'm a player and I'm like, I feel like I do that, but my coach doesn't like me, what are some things that would...
We get that all the time.
What are some things that would make the coach not like you? Or?
I think we get that all the time. I think like most players that think that they do, me included when I was playing, you probably don't. Like if the coach is telling you that you're lazy or that you need to put in more effort, most time players are like, well, no, I put in the effort and my coach doesn't see it. I would say now on the coaching side, if the players that typically say that they put in the effort and the coach says that they're lazy, those players typically need to put in more effort. Like,
how do you put in more effort?
I think body language is a big thing. Body language is huge. Like when there's like a new trend of like trying to be nonchalant and not caring. I'm sure you see now on the agency side.
Yeah. I hate nonchalant. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I really dislike nonchalant players. I try and I feel like I'm quite a good people person. I feel like I'm good at bringing things out of players. Like, yeah. Hey, how was your weekend? Like, you have any games? Yeah, it was good. We won. Nice. Did you play well? Yeah, I did all right. So, hey, did your cat die or something? Like, and then they kind of like lighten up, you know, a little bit. But I feel like, I don't know why, but players think it's cool to be like, if I'm a college coach or a professional coach, I want a player that's like, hey, I want to come play for you. Like, I love what you're doing. Like, I watched your game last week. Like, it was awesome. I don't want a player that's like, yeah, you know.
Yeah, I don't know why it's a new trend. I hate it. I very much dislike it. But it's so common. I think it's like the cool thing for players to do now. Like, it's just like, oh, just don't try. And I think a lot of players...
Why? Why do you think that is? Why is it cool?
Because if they mess up, there's not so much like... they could say, like, I'm not trying. So, like, for example, you go on trial with a team and I didn't make it. And that's because I didn't try as much. Like, I could have done better. I probably could have made it. Like, I always hear that. It's like...
I just think you're a loser.
Yeah, it's like, why not just try? But I think it's a maturity thing. And... yeah, I think it's costing people opportunities.
What ages are the players that you work with?
Typically it's 12 to 17, but we train. It depends on the time of year. Typically, like from during season, it's 12 to 17. Off season, it's 15 to pro. And
an average player compared to a Division 1 player, what are the differences?
I think just the nonchalant is one big thing, really, because we have players that are U19 and other players that are D1. So the D1 might be 20, 21 years old. And technically, they're not even that far off. Like, a lot of times you'll see even the younger guy is better than the Division 1 guy. The Division 1 player is typically a little bit more physical, just stronger in the gym, stuff like that. And then technically, I think they're more intentional with the way they train. So they'll mess up, and you could see like that generally, like,
they're annoyed.
Frustrates them. It's like, why is that?
And then what's the difference between a Division 1 and a pro player?
I think pro players don't care if they mess up. Like, that's something that I've seen. They'll mess up and they just want the ball again. Division 1 players, I think they get in their head more.
Really?
Yeah.
It's interesting because you say there that you don't like players that are nonchalant, but when a pro player messes up, is he nonchalant?
No.
Or like...
No, it's not nonchalant. I think it's similar to how Guardiola said about Foden. It's like you mess up and you forget about it. But like still with the same intensity. I think youth players mess up, they try to pretend they don't care about it, but they do, and then they'll be nonchalant in order to like I guess,
hide it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Whereas from what I see, like at least in the facility, and I get to be like right in front of them, so it's cool. Is that the Division 1 players don't mess up, and you see they start getting their own head. So as the session goes on, they're constantly getting more frustrated, and then they get to a point where they're like they're constantly messing up. Whereas the pro player, they'll mess up. They can mess up 100 times, and they'll just keep bouncing back.
Do you think that's just because they've had so many reps, or they've had so many failures, or why do you think that they?
I think the pressure of being a pro. I think like once you can get over that and you can become a successful pro, you've had to go through so many like trials and tribulations and failures and people telling you good, and so it starts to become noise that you don't even care about anymore.
What about like when you're working with like a youth player at Division 1 level or a pro player? Are they like easier to work? Like, do they reply faster, or are they more engaged on it? Do you find like you have to chase them to like, hey, are you coming? Do you like, are they late? Like,
pro players, yeah. Youth players, I mean, their parents are typically the ones that bring them and whatever. And the parents will be the ones that like also get them in trouble in case they don't train with intensity or whatever. But the Division 1 players, I think for me, have been the most enjoyable, because the pro players sometimes they think they're too good, or they won't put it the same intent. Like, depends, right? Like you get just because you're a pro, you won't get the same type of profile. We've had some that kind of joke around, and they're like, oh, I'm just doing this to like.
So why does a pro player come to you? Does he come to you because he wants to develop, train? Does he come to you just to keep fit? Does he come to you because he's your friend? Like, because obviously a youth player wants to have private training to get better, to develop. A Division 1 player wants to keep ticking over in the off season. A pro player probably the same. Like, why would a pro player come and do private training?
Division 1 players typically is more in shape. Like, they're just trying to stay in shape and get touches on the ball. Pro players is more for like specifically what they're looking at. Right. So let's say they're a winger, they want to just focus on cutting in and shooting. So pretty much the entire session will be cutting in and shooting. Some form of variation of it. So it's more intentional work. I think Division 1 is more how can I get more touches on the ball, stay in shape, make sure that the beep test comes around and I can hit it. And then youth players, like you said, it's just general. It's like I don't really know what I need to improve on. I'm just coming and I trust you guys.
Wait, when you say pro, are you talking about like USL 1, Championship, MLS, South America? Like,
we've trained up to La Liga. So we've trained from USL League 1, League 2 as well. So League 2, League 1, and then La Liga.
Oh. What are the differences in those players? Because this is interesting.
I think physically, actually.
I want to talk about this because, like, for me, USL 1... Of course, it's pro. I wasn't good enough to get a USL 1 contract. I personally think I was, but I didn't have an agent. I didn't figure it out. But if we look at the facts, I wasn't good enough to be USL 1. I would argue that, like, a lot of I have friends that play in USL 1, and they get paid X, and they also coach, and they do this, and they struggle, and they're like, you know, the level is good, but
yeah.
How would you like tell someone about the level of like USL 1 compared to a La Liga?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I would want to see more games in person for USL League 1 to like give like a solid opinion.
What's the closest team around here? I guess Miami's USL Championship. USL 1 is
far. I don't think we have a close one.
Sarasota? Naples?
Yeah, it's around there. Yeah. That's pretty far.
Yeah.
Like from us, like a weekday game, that's pretty far. I think like so we trained like in the same off season we trained the guy that Alex Freeman that ended up going to La Liga, and another guy that's playing USL League 1 they played in the same position. So it was cool to see that because you could see like directly like what's happening, and one is much older than the other one. So the one that's playing USL League 1 was much older than Alex Freeman. But even then, I think for in that situation, it's very unique. But Freeman is very athletic and huge. So I think athletically, it was like drastically different. Like one he's like 6'5", he's different. Whereas the one from USL League 1, it was interesting because his technique was better than Freeman. I think Freeman made better decisions. I think decision making at that level is much more important than League 1. So I would say like, I think the interesting thing that I've learned is that once you get to the pros, even Division 1 really, the level of technique is not that different. Yes, you get like the Ryan Cherky and Foden like at that super elite. But like anywhere that's not super elite and like Division 1 is not that different. Like the technique.
So what is different?
Decision making. I think decision making, mentality, like the stuff off the ball. decision making mentality. I think physically, like, can you stay in shape longer than somebody else? I think that's like a huge leverage point that people don't consider. It's like, if I could stay fit and not injured for 10 years and you're getting injured every season, I'm gonna have a better career than you.
I would agree massively with this, and I think that the biggest thing that I've learned at the Division 1 or the pro level is, like, football is a game of opinions. The coach is recruiting you based on doing a role in that system. So you need to be really good at doing a role in a system, right? At a certain level, at Division 1, everyone is good technically. At the pro level, of course, everyone is good technically. Like, you can't be a bad technical person and play Premier League football or even Division 1 college soccer.
Yeah.
But the players that get recruited, a coach goes to watch you. You're a really good left back. You get up and down the pitch. You cross the ball, and the coach needs that.
Yeah.
So you know that role in the system. But maybe you're small, you're short, but you do what he wants you to do. I think decision making, not taking risks, or in the forward positions taking risks but being clinical.
Yeah.
I think it's like everything is like position specific, right? But I think the biggest thing is, like, football is a game of opinions. Just because I like the way you play, you might play completely. Like, I grew up in England, you grew up here in South Florida, so we have completely different perspective of football.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're a bad footballer. It's just because you're not valued in your environment. But I would agree with what you're saying. Like, technically, I think you have to be good. That's the main thing. So that's why private training is important, because you need touches on the ball.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's understanding your role in the system, decision making, and athleticism. And I think that's the biggest thing. A Division 1 game, you go watch a Division 1 game in person. Wow, I went to watch FIU versus UNC Charlotte in the fall, and I'm watching the FIU, and I'm seeing 6'2", 6'3", big, strong, physical, long balls, direct, flick it on, striker hold the ball, and I'm like, how can you compare that to going and watching an MLS or an ECNL game?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
How do you get ready to play college soccer?
Playing with the men. I would say that's the best, easiest way to get experience of playing at that level. So if you could play UPSL, do it. Even if you could play with players like men that aren't physically there yet, or still, I guess, like Sunday League and stuff like that, I think that's still so much more valuable sometimes than playing like a regular MLS Next tournament.
100%.
Like, these guys, because now I play with them because now I'm an adult. So I get to play with some of these guys. They're not in shape anymore, but you could see there's so much more experience. So they'll make better decisions, even though they can barely
How to use their body.
Yeah, all of that stuff. Like, how to use their body, who to pass to, the patience on the ball, like stuff that you won't see from a youth player at all. We have a guy actually that we're training. He's his name is Alex Shaw. So he's now with Inter Miami's first team. He just made his debut the other day. With the first team. We've been training him since he's been U16. I've seen him and I've seen other players that are much older. Alex Shaw's much more technical and he has a super bright future. But even sometimes in his decision making, and he's playing with the first team now, so you would, like, top player playing with Messi, imagine, every day. And even him in his rush sometimes to play, in comparison to somebody that's been playing first team soccer for a while, even sometimes retired pros, you could see, like, he's still young in his playing career, so he still rushes decisions sometimes. He's still he's like a little quick, which is not a bad thing. It's just like you could just see that somebody that's maybe played 5 years, 10 years in the pros would maybe play a little differently.
What's the biggest lesson that you've learned in the last 4 years of growing modern elite training?
That things are going to take longer than expected, and if you can stay consistent, you'll get it done. I think, like, that's probably the biggest thing.
What does that mean?
So for us, like, from a business standpoint, if we look at our projections, maybe like initially I was looking like each month we're gonna almost double, and that's not what happened. But if we can look at it like maybe our goal is to hit X amount of players or whatever impact or whatever our metric is over 10 years or 5 years, it's much more likely that we can hit our goal and maybe even exceed it over a 5-year standpoint or period, rather than trying to hit or double year on year. Like, I think, like, if you look in the short term, sometimes your goals are going to be completely unrealistic. But if you look 5 or 10 years down the line, you will hit it and exceed your goals.
What's your definition of success?
I think it's impact. I think a big reason why I didn't want to continue playing pro soccer is because I felt like this is very subjective. This is a personal opinion, but I felt like it was hard to directly impact somebody playing pro, because you're playing pro. You're like the big guy, like Vinny Jr., huge player, but nobody gets to talk to him. So it's like this far guy that nobody gets to really interact with. So I was like, what's like the impact that this guy has? Like, what is? Yes, he's inspiring people, but he doesn't talk to people one-on-one. So for me, like starting modern day training is like, if I can like get in front of these people and maybe like keep them playing soccer, building confidence in themselves and like building an identity that they can like be proud of. I think that shows like a lot of success, and that's fulfilling for me. From like
what fulfills you, or what motivates you?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I may be weird like that. I don't need like a direct motivation every day. I just kind of work.
So when you really don't want to do something, you're like, I really don't want to do this, but I need to do it. Like, why? Why do you do it? Why don't you just be like, I'm going to do it tomorrow?
I don't know. I just do it. I think maybe I learned that through soccer. It was kind of like there's sometimes that I don't want to train. There's sometimes I don't want to do extra work, and I'll do it anyways. And there was never really like oh, no, I'm not going to do it today because I don't want to. Like, I just always did it. And I think I still carry that on today. Like, there's sometimes that I don't want to work, and I'll just keep working. Yeah.
How would you say your... So you said you work like 13-hour days?
Yeah. 11, 12 hours, 13-hour days.
Monday, like 7 days a week, like always?
Monday through Friday. Saturdays, I'll work like 5 to 7 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And someone might be listening to that and be like, that's miserable. That's not success. That guy's just working and he's not like...
Yeah.
Of course, he's making an impact and that's his own thing. Great. But like, that's not success to me. Like, I want to be comfortable. I want to have the weekend off, travel in the evenings, watch Netflix, have a glass of wine. Like, why is that successful for you? Why is that motivating for you? Why do you do that? Why don't you just quit?
I think I love it, but you're right. So I mean, I don't think entrepreneurship is for everybody. I think if you're not willing to put in those extra hours, then it's better to get just a regular job, which is not bad by any means. But if you want to make the impact that you probably want to do with having a business, I think you have to put in the extra hours. I think it's unrealistic to not.
So what does making an impact mean?
For me, like when like a personal standpoint, I want to change the way that soccer is developed and developed in the US. So that's one thing. I think that we're like massively behind Europe and stuff, and Europe and South America and things like that. So if I can help impact that as much as possible, so modern elite training is like the vessel or the vehicle to be able to do that, that would be obviously really important to me. But then also like letting players have the clarity on what steps to take. I think that's huge as well.
What's been the biggest success that you've had, or the biggest like win?
I think I mean, we've worked with Nike. We've had like really cool things happen, but I think having opening up a facility at 19 and getting it done, like being able to continue doing it and doing it successfully, I think that's been big.
Why do you think that you did, like, how did that happen at 19? Because when I was 19, I was in college, or I was, partying at the weekends, and I was not really focused. Like, I was just kind of going through the motions. Like, why were you different to me at 19? Like, what were you doing at 19?
I've always wanted to be successful, like, financially as well. I mean, everything, but just financially speaking about this. And for me, so I was 17 and I was already like looking at, I mean, I would say as soon as I could start working, I started working. And then I went through regular working, like retail jobs and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I want to like be able to build something now. Like, I've done the retail jobs. I've done like the stuff that people typically do at 17 or 18. I did at 15, 16. So I'm like, look, like I want to build something now. So I started doing real estate. That's why I went into real estate. But it wasn't as fulfilling to me, because it was like, you're working on properties that like you don't get to like really touch somebody as much. At least for me, that's how it felt. So I don't necessarily think that we were different. I just think that like my timeline happened faster. I don't really have I just always been really driven.
What's next for you? Like, what are you looking forward to or excited about? Like, how do you keep, how do you, because you've obviously grown a private training company in Miami, or South Florida. Like, what's next? Because people might think, oh, he's done that, he's cool. Like, how can you grow that? Like, what's next for you? What are you excited about?
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at opening up another location, so that could be a huge opportunity for us. So opening up another location, But for now, it's just like there's so much more that we could do in our current location, to really maximize, like, one is training quality, but like from a business standpoint is like increasing revenue. I think online training is going to be really cool because we can now have our philosophy being pushed across.
What's your
beyond our-
goal? What's like that? When will you be like, okay, I've achieved my goal?
I don't think ever. I think I've come to the realization that I won't ever, because every time that I'll set out a goal, we'll hit it or exceed it eventually. Maybe not in a month, but eventually we'll exceed it. And then I'll be like, you know what? Like, there's always more. So I don't think I'll ever hit necessarily like I've made it. I don't think I'll do that.
Does that upset you? Excite
No,
you?
I think I like it. I think I like I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird, but I think like I love the game for how it's played. Like, it's like the game is designed that you will never reach your goal until you die. Essentially, like they will just continue to push and push and push.
It's interesting. I have the exact same dilemma, but sometimes I'm personally really excited because we hit a goal, we have a thing, and we set something and we smash it, and then it's okay, what's next? But at some points, I have a conversation with Victor, and I'm like, dude, like, it's like so many things going on, managing all of these things, and like at some point, like, we need to like make sure like everything is good, under control, and then because at some point, like, you go really fast.
Yeah.
And then it's like not uncontrollable, but you have to be like, okay, now we need to like fix this, otherwise it's going to break if you keep going.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, at what point do you arrive? Like, at what point are you like, okay, I'm here, I'm happy, I'm content? Or do you think it's just like the curse of the entrepreneur that you're always wanting more?
I think it's that. I think it's like, to be an entrepreneur, you will always want more. And I think that most people that end up like not like they become satisfied, they end up selling the business because they're like, I've done everything that I set out to do.
You know what I think? I think also like family too. Like, I don't have any kids that I know about. I don't have a wife. But I think that like also when you have a family, things change too. Your priorities shift, because right now,
Agreed.
like,
you just work.
I just work. I just do this. I love it. It's my it's a video game. I'm trying to smash every level, but at some point it will be like, okay, you have a family, you have kids, and then I think it will shift.
I agree. I think that changes things a lot because you want to spend more time with your kids. I think entrepreneurship, like I said, it's like for me it would be 12, 13-hour days. I don't think that's something sustainable forever. Because you eventually want to spend time with your kids. I think the people, like the 60-year-old people that are able to do that every day, like, it's super respectable, because like you're still sacrificing at that age. You have all the money in the world that you can ever want, and you're still doing this because of like a greater vision that you have.
What would you say? So just to kind of finish things off, Jaydon, like, what is the biggest piece of advice that you would give to like a young footballer?
Train and be patient. I think those are the two big things. If you want to, and train and be patient for a soccer player, like if you're trying to play pro. And just as a person advice, I would say don't tie your identity to soccer. I think a lot of soccer players, they say, I'm a soccer player, and that's all they are. So once soccer gets taken from them, or they get injured, or whatever the case is, they don't have an identity anymore.
How do I figure out if I'm listening to that, I'm thinking, that's me. How do I?
I would just say like start thinking. I like to think in extremes. So it's like, what if I don't have soccer anymore? I'm not gonna die. So then what happens then? And then you start figuring out, like, what are things that I am, that I play soccer, but I am not just a soccer player. And you start to think of like, okay, well, what else are good qualities that I have? And then you start to build off that. But I think that's a big thing that players need to figure out, because that happened to me. My goal was always to play pro. I ended up playing, committing to a Division 1 school, and then I didn't go to Division 1. I ended up starting a business, and then I got away from soccer, and I'm like, dude, what now? Like, what am I gonna do now? And there's just always a next step. But players, I think when you're playing, you become like almost like, I don't know what else I'm gonna do.
And what's your biggest? Just lastly, what's your biggest piece of success? What's your biggest piece of advice to be successful in life?
I go back to it, but just work hard and be consistent.
What does work hard mean?
I think the way that I've learned what working hard is getting in front of other people that work hard. So I've had mentors. I think mentors is huge. the mentors that I had were the most like millionaires, mentors. They have huge businesses, and the way that they worked taught me that I don't work nearly close to as hard as they do. So I don't think you'll ever understand what working hard is until you work around somebody that works much harder than you.
Your environment.
Yeah, the environment's huge.
And what is the main message of modern elite training? Why you are different to everyone else?
We develop players. We have a training program that develops with the player, and it's developed for a player that plays in the modern game, how it is played today. So we evolve as the game evolves.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love that. That was an amazing episode. I learned a lot. We'll tag Jaydon's Instagram and his channel, so you can, if you learned anything today, if you're in South Florida and you need a session, you know who to go to. If you learned anything, pop Jaydon a message. But that was top, man. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Appreciate
Thanks for having me.
Top.